This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And this is the Rugby Championship Post-Mortem that we were supposed to do after the Wallabies and lost to New Zealand in Perth last night, but which, mate, the Wi-Fi powers of Twickenham Stadium in London conspired against you.
Yeah, I guess it was that, and it was the fact that there was about 5 minutes between the two games.
True.
When you could actually get from one place to the other. So we are in the unusual event in that, well, actually it's kind of cool. You watched the entirety of the Wallabies All Blacks. I watched the entirety of the Springboks, but I don't think neither of us watched very much of the other one. So
I'm hoping I watched enough. I know I watched a fair chunk, and I know what went on. So we'll see how we go. But yes, we're almost back in weekend post-mortem mode after the Wi-Fi gods conspired against us, which is cool. Before we rip in then, mate, before we try and work our way through this, please tell the lovely people how they can subscribe to the 8-9 Combo.
There is a button. There are things you push in life, and you should push those things. If you don't, you might find yourself regretting, and you shouldn't live a life full of regret. Also, I had a lot of tequila tonight, and did a lot of jumping with very large men, and that could be hazardous. So I might have injured something. Who knows? Point is, don't wait until I tell you I've hurt myself. Help us. And also, Brett's back in the sad Brett McKay mode. So, help her brother out. It's not fun to keep losing to the All Blacks.
No, it's the annoyed phase, I think, more than anything. But yes, you are right. It's the red subscribe button down there in the corner, and obviously, if listening on any of the pod platforms, hit follow, hit like, hit subscribe, whatever it happens to be, and make sure your notifications are turned on everywhere, video, pod, anything. Make sure you turn on so that you know that we're putting out a post-mortem about 8 hours later than we were expected to. Australia v New Zealand in Perth, mate, at the Optus Stadium in Perth. New Zealand 28 have beaten the Wallabies 14. That's then followed, obviously, over in Twickenham Stadium by a monumental comeback from Los Pumas. South Africa 29 have beaten Argentina 27 at the Twickenham Stadium in London. Your 5-word headline from Bledisloe 2 in Perth.
Box are back. Two back. That was actually a full stop. It was like, Box are back. Full stop.
Yep. I know what you've done
Two
because
back.
I've done the same
Two
thing.
back.
Because mine is very much on par with what happened in Perth last night. Stupid mistakes kill Wallabies again.
Oh, the again.
The full stop in the middle. Yeah.
Don't like agains. Agains are bad.
Yeah.
Again start to make you think that the learnings are not being lessened, and you start to become annoyed, like you said.
Yeah, this is it. That's exactly what it is. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened last week, and that's the annoying bit. So yes. So as we say, New Zealand 28, Australia 14 in Perth. What's your 1 minute summary? How do you try and sum that up?
Erroneous. The erroneous Wallabies are back, where Joe Schmidt is known as a sort of a principal type, very studious and very scrupulous, and it appears as if that does work. Obviously, you'd like the 2025 of the Wallabies better than 2024, but there's still fundamental problems of reverting to type. I suppose penalty counts, just choices, decisions. Yeah. I didn't watch all of it, but from what I watched, I felt dismal. I thought, oh no, this is not going to work. I'm not talking about the Falcon and stuff like that. I'm talking about you've got the ball. There's tons of space. There's an attack shape that doesn't even look like a shape, and then things go wrong, and you go, but of course they were going to go wrong. And so it was kind of sad for James Slipper, because what a man, what a moment. And then you sort of like, think about how many times he did something like that and ended up losing. It just seems like he deserved a better send off, I suppose.
He did.
Yeah.
He definitely did. And instead he sort of just trots off in the rain with a bit of a wave to the crowd. It's certainly not the way he needed to go. Look, I'll even take the July and August 2025 Wallabies as opposed to the October, the late September and October Wallabies, because they feel like two different teams right now. And you're right, it's the silly mistakes, it's the skill errors, it's the discipline, it's the decision making, and the annoying part of it is that they started really well. There was a different shape about them. They were playing more Octane Edmund at 10 and with a bit more width than we saw last week.
And they got to the third pass, and they got
to the third pass quite regularly. They were, Suoliti was starting to cause a bit of issue out wide. So by the 20-minute mark, which has been the mark where the Wallabies of 2025 have generally been down by 15 points already. It was in fact 9-7. They were leading. Yeah. They took penalty goals. They'd kicked 3 penalties to that point.
Yeah. And turned down one, which would have put them up 12-7.
Yeah, potentially. So, it was really only Quinn Tupaia scores 2 tries in the space of a couple of minutes just before half time. One of them being the aforementioned Falcon off Geordie Barrett's head. But I don't know. Like even at that point, even at 17-9 at half time, my sort of take was that there's just sort of let themselves down a little bit in the back end of the first half. But this game is still very much there.
Yep.
Like they were for half an hour, they were proving that they had a method that was working, and then in the second half, they just forgot about all of that. And as you say, they became the bad old Wallabies of recent years, and that's the annoying bit, unfortunately.
Well, it's also bad because although in a proper tournament, all that really matters is who wins the tournament, and the Rugby Championship has struggled to define itself as a proper tournament because it's these individual rivalries. First and foremost, the Bledisloe. Second, the Freedom Cup. And then no one really hates the RGs and they don't hate us. Yeah. So it's sort of like if the Wallabies had managed to do what we kind of all thought they might do in Perth, it would have been the Wallabies, besides the Springboks, but the Wallabies who probably had the best tournament in terms of improvement.
Yeah.
Now, it seems like you have to rethink that and go, I mean, the All Blacks it was not a vintage All Blacks year, but they probably end up, damn it, second best story, basically.
They've finished with 4 wins. So, just on that front. No, I agree with you. I think if the Wallabies finish 3 wins, 3 losses, you would look at that and go,
absolutely. Great.
There's actually a really good team building here.
Yes.
They'd be annoyed with the 3 losses. There'd be moments in the 3 losses that they'd like to have back and that they could rectify and did rectify in weeks following.
Yes.
But they couldn't do that.
You just don't want to lose the same way to an old foe. It's one of the most annoying things in all sports rivalries is, fans will take a loss if it was super brave, super tight, or different, damn it. It's just when it's the same thing when, their thinking patterns, the All Blacks' quick thinking, decision-making, and 50-50s and scrambles on the ground. And will they win those and quite comfortably in the end? I suppose it's dispiriting for a Wallaby fan.
Yeah. The discipline issue, which has been an issue for this playing group for the last couple of years, has crept back in the last few weeks. They didn't concede many penalties through the Lions series. They only conceded 10 penalties in 2 games in South Africa, and it's steadily increased every game since then. It was 14 against Argentina in Sydney. It was 15 in Auckland last week. It was 14 again in Perth.
And I'm not a big fan of blaming any one person, but I did think that the childish episode of Will Skelton early in the game, I just kind of hung my head and I said, "What are you doing, man? You did all the hard work. You got the penalty, and now not only did you get it reversed, I mean, even Harry Wilson was just kind of dropped his head because he knew it was such a stupid thing to do, and so public. And it wasn't the Lions series. We can kind of get away with that, and it's all hopped up. It's just one of those games you needed to be, like you said, you're hanging in there. The score line, whether it's 9-7 or 7-9, is great. But now I just felt like that was one tip, and the second one was I felt like people just kept doing the same thing, hoping for different results. Which is, it's got
the second half
Joe
felt like
Schmidt's
that.
head in. Like what am I doing with this pack? Yeah,
the second half definitely felt like that. It was like, no, this time it'll really work. No, that's not going to go.
Fair play to the All Blacks. The All Blacks,
yes,
sort of found a way that to win back-to-back games. They clearly finished the second best team in the tournament, and probably Razor was looking down a barrel. To be honest, I mean, if you go back you go back to Wellington, he was on shaky ground, so he probably had to finish win-win.
Well, even last week, before the first Bledisloe test at Eden Park, he wouldn't want to be the guy that loses at Eden Park. There was a lot of that. We definitely talked about it ourselves. There was a lot of commentary about that.
He was setting too many bad records, as Jamie Wall put it. No, you just had to take care of business. So in a way, even though I think the All Blacks had more of a must-win, I felt like it was super disappointing as someone who's been deeply inculcated in Australian rugby for a while now, because I just like to see incremental improvement instead of going back to 2 wins, and then you go, it's just barely better. And also, a lot of it seems to ride on that one incredible moment in Ellis Park. And I'm sure that Joe Schmidt doesn't want that to be the story. He wants to see that his guys, take steps and move on and move up.
The problem now is that Ellis Park looks like the most remarkable outlier.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
The other way to see this is pretty mundane, which is just that tournaments by their very nature, especially as the game is being played now with incredible numbers of carries, is depth is king. And in reality,
yes, that's also true.
All the teams are losing about the same number of guys. Rossi did a great job of listing off all the guys he didn't have. But some teams can handle it. The All Blacks can handle it a little bit better than the Wallabies.
Yeah. I saw something coming into this test that talked about the All Blacks having used Lester Fainganuku was going to be their 43rd player, I think, in 9 tests last year, and in all of 2024 they used 44 players in 15 tests. Now Australia has used a similar amount. I think it might be 42, but it's a similar amount of players in 9 tests. The other shame for me is the yellow cards. Harry Potter's last week was the Wallabies' first yellow card of 2025, and then Tom Hooper cops one first half. Lenny Kitau cops one second half for the high tackle on Tupai, and that's two in a game. So there's 20 minutes of that game where they're already in trouble, that they've had to play with 14 men. And the sad part of that is that Hooper and Nikitau have probably been the top handful of players for the Wallabies this year, like consistently good, and they just had moments. What's going to be the review this week for both teams? How Scott Robinson's breathing a little bit easier, but how will New Zealand look back on that win?
Yeah, that they're engaged in a mediocre season for All Blacks, and that the way that season can change is on the end of year tour. They obviously have a big doozy in Chicago at Soldier Field.
Yeah.
So they've got plenty. You build this to your players as incredible opportunities, and
Yep.
but I think you'd level with them and say, we are what we are at this point in the season. We're basically a 50-50 team, and we're going to go one way or the other. And if we stay 50-50 in New Zealand, that means you're pretty shit. So
Yeah.
I would challenge them, and I mean, they have the ammunition, they have the players, they have everything they need, but it just feels like they're missing that little 5% thing
Yeah.
that we know, you and I know, to our chagrin, that the All Blacks have had for a very long time.
Yeah, that's fair. They've got a Grand Slam coming. They've got Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales in their November tour. Australia, on the other hand, have got similar opportunities, but all of a sudden we're looking at this group of games a bit differently now because of the recent form line. They've got Japan in Tokyo on the way, and then it's England, Italy, Ireland, France.
Yeah.
So
it's tough. It's a tough one.
There's a couple of tough games in that.
It reminds you of Dave Rennie almost, where you have a tour from hell, and it could go really badly if one of the teams that you're really supposed to beat, you lose to. The other thing I would say is if you want a team to be a good team, you have to grow in the tournament.
Yeah.
And you have to reserve your best performances for the final two. I thought Rossi did a good job of framing this as a semi-final and a final. And to be honest, and I'm not trying to be insulting in any way, but it felt like I was at the final and watching the All Blacks Wallabies. It felt like the consolation bronze medal,
third, fourth playoff. Yeah,
missing something.
Yeah, I don't think I can argue that. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I don't think it's.
I always look forward to the spice of Bledisloe, and I thought Perth did a great job of supporting the team and selling it out. And there was a buzz, but it just something happened where the fizz
died off second half,
went out, and I was like, okay. And I mean, kind of the timing was good for me. I was like, okay, and so here I go into Twickenham because I prefer to see. I even prefer to see a fight or something, but it just didn't work.
Yeah. 60,000 at Perth, more than 370,000 to the Wallabies. What was it, 7 or 8 home tests this year, which is I'm almost certain that's a record attendance.
Gotta be
in a non-World Cup year. Talk to me about then. We'll do a quick wrap on Argentina in the box, 29-27. I mean, it's the way I would summarize this is that South Africa looked very, very comfortable midway through the second half and looked like they should have run on and won this by 30, probably. It felt like we were heading for 43-13 or something, and in the end, Argentina mount a monumental comeback, score after the final siren, and it's only 2. They get a losing bonus point out of it.
Yeah. I mean, but it was a final. So both teams entered the thing as a knockout match. And when it reverted to a knockout match, while it's true what you just said about the game going a certain way, in the end, the clock was the thing. And going up by 9 and staying up by 9 and winning a penalty, even though Manny Lebok didn't kick it out, which allowed them to get back in. And even though Cheston Colby threw a pass to nowhere, so those were essentially gifted. It just felt like, I mean, there was a moment where a scrum, which was just horrendous all day for Argentina. Finally, they needed a scrum and the Boks didn't. So the Boks just kind of did slow play, and it ended up costing them 3 minutes. And even though there was a try scored, it was the 3 minutes that killed them. You go from 72 minutes to 75 minutes and nothing is happening. That's classic knockout rugby. That's just one team knowing how to win and realizing they don't have enough time to score 9 points. They just don't.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. Other thing is, I don't want to diminish Argentina itself. So talking in the scrum later in the mixer of the players at Kubus Reinach, and I got good stuff from Rossi in the sort of the proper press conference and Sia, but I got something even better from Kubus. And Kubus Reinach said, you know how Rossi called that first game in Ellis Park dog shit. And it's almost like this was the dog fight. And he said, the motivation of a team that's been embarrassed the week before is so incredibly high. And so they were always going to be like wild dogs fighting. It was a home game, even though they didn't have more than maybe 5,000, spectators out of the 70,000. They were incredibly invested in this game. They didn't want to be demoralized and humiliated. So they were always going to put on the field their best. The other thing Columbus said is no one in this tournament has really put consistently together a 45, 50-minute thing. And he said, our best 20 minutes was probably at Ellis Park, to be honest. So everyone, including the Pumas, is capable of doing a red-hot alert, go time, click attack, like they did against the Lions. So, props to Argentina. The problem is that the game did feel comfortable. And it's hard to convey that sometimes, right? Yeah, there was at no point in that game that I start to think, oh, they're going to catch us. They're going to come from 20 to 9 to 29 and reel us in. I saw that they could get there close, and it was going to be close, but the clock was the enemy.
It's funny. It's funny how time works against you and conspires against you at one point. And I'll go back to Perth very, very quickly. McKenzie kicks a penalty on 70 minutes, and that makes it 23-14. And at that point, I'm thinking, it's still 10 minutes. Like, they've done a lot in 10 minutes this year. But then the next conscious thought I have about time was that there was a scrum packed, and all of a sudden I'm going, oh, this is the 78th minute already. And at that point, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean. When you lose 3 minutes like they did like that around that scrum, that's
And then they made the right decision. They made the wrong decision, Argentina, to not go for the 3 earlier in that passage. In the end, they realized, let's get a 3 because we're right in front of the poles, and then we'll have 3 minutes to try and score a try. And then they hit the poles. Then they get the ball back. So all these things are happening where it's almost uncanny. You go, how is Marty Blubbuck missing touch? And then you hit the poles, and then you kind of get the try you thought you might not get, and you get that. Yeah, so it was a bit strange. Super party. The party's still going on, and London Welsh is the club that it's located. The Bry Army is this incredible band, and we've got about 700 by this point highly intoxicated South Africans. And it's just great fun. We're outside, we're doing great things and having great times, just doing sing-alongs. But I'm sitting next to Hugh Griffin, and he purchased or he got the ref earbuds. I didn't do that because I like to draw pictures and walk around and annoy everyone. So Hugh was listening to them, and I would say, hey, what are you hearing on there? And he'd say, Piardi never talks. And I thought it was so funny because one of the knocks on Piardi, and I actually quite like it. I like a guy who doesn't coach at all, but he doesn't explain very much. And whereas, when I was watching the Wallabies All Blacks,
Matthew Carley was very much explaining things. Yeah.
Yes, he gives you all the, and now Cortisol 4, Correlating 1, A2, and Piardi just goes. He just says no, held up, doesn't get fussed with the TMO, and so he made
another held up call.
Yeah,
he did his thing again where he makes another held up call and then he walks away.
Yeah,
there's just no room for
that looked pretty good, and you're like nope. And so in person, I think that's quite nice. I mean, he makes the game kind of just move along. It was actually a very physical game, which you can get from TV, but sometimes when you're in person, that's the one thing I think you can get from in person is just the smack of these hits. Kremer, Peter Steph-Toy, Jasper Wiese, who was sort of high carrier, high tackler. Jasper Wiese was such a miss in Ellis Park and in Cape Town. Just not having a proper ball carrying 8 in today's rugby is absolutely tough. So it was really a great party. Got to be in the press conferences, got to hang out with a lot of cool people. I got my first question in, which was basically I just said the dog fight, which made Rassi chuckle. And then Sia did something really. I thought heard him say everything, but he was talking about the drive to keep getting better. and what it takes as a champion to go back to back, and then now to try to go back to back to back. But they hadn't done it in the Rugby Championship. Only the All Blacks have been able to do the back to back, and so it's quite. I mean, I would say it made me kind of tear up a little bit just to hear him go through that, and how. And there was a funny moment where someone said, "Hey, Sia, what would your young self tell your old self, your self now, to do less of or more of?" And then Rossi chimed in and said, "Drink less." But it was sort of emotional in there. And I think this tournament, like you said before, is kind of come to life right when it's disintegrating. So it's kind of sad.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny. I think 2 weeks ago we were heading for a scenario where all 4 coaches would have finished the tournament pretty satisfied with what their team gave them. 2 weeks later now, I don't think that's the case. I think Joe Schmidt, Felipe Contemplate, I think they're shaking their heads at a lot of things that have happened.
I think every coach and every team does have one really good moment and good thing. Yeah. The problem is that those things are not equal. So Eden Park remains a fortress. So that's the main thing, is that they put themselves at risk twice in one tournament, which is, a hell of a thing. And then I think Argentina, again, sort of boosting this idea that they can play anywhere, win anywhere, and they can win at home against New Zealand. And then I think for the Wallabies, Ellis Park is going to be historic. I mean, I think you'll never, 1963, whatever, the numbers that was shattered. And then the Boks, get to go back to back finally. So maybe everyone does take away something, but I would say the one that I'm probably the most disappointed in is the Wallabies returning to things that I thought they had kicked. And then, now I'm a little bit upset like you are about not doing this again. I kind of wish okay, so next year, no.
Welcome to my world, man.
Goodbye, Rugby Championship.
Yeah.
Rossi said he's not even sure it'll ever happen again. I mean, he wasn't saying he knew something.
No,
and there is a shot that it never does it. And he brought up a point. He said, I was in the Tri-Nations as a player, and then there's no Tri-Nation. So things do change, and we kind of have to get used to that. But he seemed a little bit sad about that.
But the Tri-Nations going to the Rugby Championship was an improvement. I don't think what we're heading for is an improvement. But this is absolutely another wormhole for another day, I think. So I think that's a wrap, mate. I think that is the Rugby Championship post-mortem sliced and diced for another year. Anything to add?
No, I mean, post-mortems are probably done best with a little bit of time and space. So maybe, you woke up with, more even temper. Sometimes, so these things are hard, guys, out there when you're doing them when you've lost.
They are.
Sometimes it's good to sleep.
I'll admit that this one feels different because I have slept on it. There is a good chunk of time between full time in both games and us actually recording this. So there is a different feel about this. I think it feels like it's more philosophical even than just instant reaction. Tell us what you think, sort of thing. So
exactly.
Let's call it done. Tell us what you think by following Harry and I on the socials. Follow the 8 9 on socials as well on all the platforms. Have you say here on the YouTube channel. Have you say on Spotify if you're there as well. Either way, wherever you are, we'd love to hear from you. Ratings, reviews, shares, all of that. We'd love to hear from you as well. This is the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, and you didn't realize you needed it later in a Rugby Podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we will be back in your ears in a few days' time with Jeff Parks for another great rugby chat.
Come play with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team combo go in again.